I feel in total shock that I'm filming this video, and I'm hoping I don't get emotional or anything because I've definitely gotten really emotional when reading this series and very excited to be filming this video review today. Hello friends, happy Friday. I am reviewing the first manga that was in the top 3 of the shoujo manga that you guys voted for. If you're unsure of what that event was and what was happening, be sure to check out this video that has the results and what the event was. I dove into the biggest first because I feel like since the shoujo event was kicking off, like it's been on my mind. I've been wanting to read it. I was waiting for the latest volume to release, and that said series is Snow White with the red hair. I don't think I can get any further away, but that's all 25 volumes. This was a arm workout to hold it up for the thumbnail. I was like, this is so many volumes. But yes, Snow White with the red hair was in the top 3. I think it came in at number 3 with being almost an upset because Perfect World almost beat it. Wow, I have been in a binge reading cave, I think since last week. I read majority of this series under a week, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself right now. I finished it last night and it was just like a state of shock, a state of excitement, a state of I don't know what to do now, and that's pretty much how I feel. I fell hard over these characters. I really feel like this is probably a shoujo series that is in my top 5 favorite shoujo series I've ever read. It is so beautiful and moving, and it has so many things to it that I deeply loved. I mean, let me pause there. Let me tell you what this is about, because I'm not really sure where to start in gushing about this series. I have been hoping and praying so hard that I can just reflect my feelings and my thoughts, my emotions, all of it really well, because I'm like, I really want people to check out this series. I love it so much. But in case if you're not familiar with Snow White with the red hair, it is about our main girl here. Her name is Shirayuki, and she lives in, I think it's Tanaburn. She lives there, and the royal prince has basically summoned her. He's interested in her because of her red hair and wants her to come be one of his concubines. Shirayuki is like, no. She cuts off her hair, she cuts her hair, she leaves it behind, and she runs away to the next kingdom. While she's in there, in that kingdom, Clarines, I believe is how you say that properly, she runs into the prince of that kingdom. His name is Prince Zen. He looks like this, and he's a very interesting man when you first meet him, but he believes that red is the color of destiny and that they met for a purpose, and he's hoping that she will stay part of basically his destiny, his future. They slowly fall in love, and that is their story of Shirayuki, who is a court herbalist. She makes medicine, and our fellow prince, second prince Zen, and them falling in love throughout this series. And like I said before, it's so beautiful. I cried at multiple points when reading this series. I still cannot wrap my mind around that I finished it. I mean, it's not over, and there was a hiatus, and thankfully the creator has come back from my hiatus. I found or heard a new chapter's coming out this month in Japan, and I'm like, please give us volume 26, because I am not ready to say goodbye at all. I mean, thankfully it's not like an official goodbye, more like a see you later. I guess I will start saying that this was I think it was a really moving experience too, because this was one of the first manga recommendations I ever got when I started looking for manga. I don't know how many years, but I guess it had to have been about 4 or 5 years ago, because I read volumes 1 through 4 roughly 3 to 4 years ago when it was like in 2019 and 2020. I stopped reading, and I remember why I stopped, which makes me laugh because I wasn't a fan of Prince Izana, and I was sort of afraid that there was going to be a love triangle with Obi, and I was not ready for that because I strongly ship Shirayuki and Zen very much. So after that, after I read those 4 volumes, I told myself I would always pre-order. I would always collect the volumes as they release. I've said it in previous videos, or I know one previous video, I don't remember which one, but I did say that if I could only pre-order one shoujo manga or one manga, Snow White with the Red Hair would always be that manga, and that definitely stands true for sure even now. I mean, I think of like series like A Sigh of Affection and Imakoi, which I really, really love. They're in my top favorites of ongoing series, but there's just something so special with Snow White the Red Hair. I mean, Shirayuki, she didn't inspire me, but she did motivate me to finally cut my hair, and I was like, a character has not done that to me before, and I really, really love Shirayuki. I feel like I have the problem, or maybe it's not a problem, I feel like sometimes it is, where in most manga, regardless of demographic, I always really love the hero more than the heroine, or I love the side characters, usually they're the male side characters. I love them more than the main heroine of the story. That was not the case with Snow White the Red Hair. I love Shirayuki right from the start. There are things that are spoken about her that I highlighted in my reviews on Goodreads. Yes, I left a review for each and every volume, and almost all of them are over 350 words. I think the longest one was probably like 500 or 600. I had so much to say, and I was really bothered that many people on Goodreads were like, this series not this interesting, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just had to come to a point where I had to stop reading reviews on Goodreads because I started like leaving my thoughts and then going to see what other people said. I was like, I'm just not gonna do that with this series because people are like, it's boring, it's not good, this is lame, and I'm just like, can you please stop bashing one of my favorite series? It's like my cup of tea, I love it. I'm like, everybody has a right to how they feel. But going back to Shirayuki, sorry for that minor rant there, I feel that she is so admirable. Many times feel like I was repeating myself, honestly, of saying how admirable of a character that she is, because it's hard for me to put it into words. I feel like she is headstrong, but not in a bad way. I mean, with her giving her hair to the prince and her refusing to be a concubine, going to the other country, but leaving her hair behind like that, like, girl, you totally slayed in that situation. I feel like in the middle of the series, like, Shirayuki sort of mellows out, like, not in a bad way, but there are moments where you see this feistiness to her character and how she is so strong and motivated. Like, she wants to be by Prince Zen's side, and she's not going to let anybody talk down to her. I mean, even in the beginning, because I had went back and sort of tried to skim through the volumes because so much had happened by the end, that I completely forgot that her life was really at risk in the beginning. But she was like, she tells Zen, I want to handle this on my own. I'm just like, that is amazing. Like, she's wanting to confront any situation that would potentially, even if it's dangerous, put her away from Prince Zen because she wants to be by his side. But I love, like, later on in the series when Obi asks her, which is another character, he's like, you know, do you want to stand by his side as an ally or a court herbalist? And she's like, they're one the same. They've never been separated in my mind. And I love how throughout this series, she has never once let go of her dream, of her passion to be a herbalist, a court herbalist at that. I think that's one really unique thing about this series, which it's not, I wouldn't say it's my favorite part, but I think it's a deal breaker for many, is that this is a romantic fantasy story. I love Shirayuki and Zen. They're one of my like top couples. They're amazing. But it's sort of hard because for about roughly the first 10 volumes, Shirayuki and Zen are together. They're growing and blooming in this romance. It's very sweet. It's very swoon-worthy. But then Shirayuki gets orders from the king or the prince at the time, I can't remember, to go to a different city that's very far away. She has to leave the palace. And from that point on, Shirayuki, I mean, that's like 20 volumes basically. Shirayuki is not with Zen. They don't spend a lot of time together. I mean, when they're together, the moments are worth it. They are so swoon-worthy, and the art is perfection. The way the panel layout is, I'm getting pretty emotional because their leads are back together and their love just keeps growing stronger and stronger. But Shirayuki, she deeply loves Zen, and Zen loves her. I mean, they very much inspire and encourage and motivate one another to better themselves. And I love when Zen even says he loves when Shirayuki is speaking on the behalf of herself to become a better person. Like, he wants her by his side, obviously, and she wants to be by his side as well, but they're not willing to surrender or let go of their passions. I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but they're gonna pursue those. And I just was really blown away by that because I feel like we don't see that often in shoujo manga, where the main leads deeply love each other, but they're going out first to better themselves as individuals. I mean, Shirayuki's in an interesting situation because she can't just be by Prince Zen's side. She doesn't have a title or a status or anything, and I loved how there's just this foreshadowing in the beginning where something has happened and she calls out for Prince Zen and he's like, hold on, I'll come down to you. And she's like, no, let me go up to you. I feel like that is an ongoing theme, or I was supposed to say trend, but an ongoing situation situation theme that happens throughout this series where Shirayuki is doing all she can to be up there with him rather than him coming down to her. And that's just a really another strong part of Shirayuki's character that I loved. Little Ryu, which we will talk about him. I love little Ryu. He's so cute and so amazing. But he has this beautiful chapter and he tells Shirayuki that she creates an environment where she wants to support people, where she sees those people and does what she can to help them. And he's like, I want to be that kind of person. And I started crying after that that conversation because I just felt Ryu's words where I feel like that is why I admire Shirayuki, because she's doing all she can, right, to be up there with Zen, to support herself and pursue her passions as an individual, find what is her direction in life, what is she supposed to be doing with this passion, and can she be by Prince Zen's side? She's still moving forward in those things, but she's also supporting, standing by her loved ones, her friends. I mean, she gives 100% of her all. I can see the care, the love that she has for them and the worry that she has for them at times. She is in one of my top favorite shoujo heroines. I have just loved her every single page. I've loved seeing her grow. I mean, I would say I felt like a proud mom, but I felt like she was like a best friend. Like all of these characters just felt like fictional best friends. And when I read volume 20 a few nights ago, I laid in my bed and I was like, I hope I don't let go of this feeling. I hope I don't forget this feeling of how loved, of how joyful I was, and how I just felt like, man, I would love, literally, I mean, Haikyuu is the only manga that comes to mind very vividly where I wish I could go into those pages. I wish I could be like, teleport me into the story, because when Shirayuki and the gang gets together, it is so very, very beautiful. And I guess I know I was going to talk about Prince Zen, but let's talk about one other thing is with this series, I feel like that is the special, unique, and beautiful part of this story. You're coming for the friendships. There is not a lot of high action, but those last 4 volumes, I think it's more 22 to 25, but a little bit of 21 is high stakes action. I could not read fast enough, but I feel like that is a rare time that we have. I mean, there's a few other moments, like when the twins are on scene, you know, things are going to be really intense. There is this one female pirate, coolest villainess I've ever seen. I feel like I wasn't supposed to like her character, but I loved her character. I thought she was really cool. In fact, I feel like with all of the bad guys, I actually really liked. I mean, there's one character near in the last few volumes. He was not my favorite, but I did really come to like him. But yes, going back, this is this part of this series that I feel like it's known for, in that there's just times where they're just having fun. They're just being together, and that's all it is. And I'm like, I love these parts. It shows the beauty of the friendship, of how wonderful and joyful friendship is in general, and how we can form trust with people. And I really love that with Prince Zen. That's a good part to go into his, of how he's encouraged. Like, you may have a lot of, or feel like you have a lot of enemies around you who are just after your title and the prestige and just want to be like, well, I'm Prince Zen's friend, I'm in his inner circle. But you have allies. You have to find those allies. There are people who want to stand by your side just because they care for you. Not what you can give them, not what you can do, but purely for who you are. That theme continues through the whole entire series. It's one of my favorite parts. I really want volume 26 because after the intensity of the past few volumes, I was like, I need that. I need to see our gang reunited, our trio and whatnot, all of them together, and them just sitting around the campfire, sitting around the table, just drinking and eating and having a great time. I love those moments so very much. You have so many of them within these first 10 volumes. You have it afterwards, but it changes. And I never thought, okay, that since this is a romantic series, I never thought I would be okay seeing Shirayuki and Zen not to be together for the duration of this series. I was a little bit nervous that I would find it boring, but I did not. I did not, because you know that these characters are trying to better themselves, and I never thought that that would be something I was into, because I am very much, give me that romance. That makes up majority of my reading. I absolutely love it, but I really have loved seeing Shirayuki just thrive. But the interesting thing is when it comes to character development, I really feel like Prince Zen takes the cake between the two leads, because I feel like Obi has some of the best, or in this series, some of the best character development. But with Prince Zen, I don't know, I find it funny that the manga creator, when you read the sidebars, she loves to troll Zen. And I'm so here for it because it's just so funny, even though I feel bad. And she jokes about how he's a background character, that he doesn't do much, that Shirayuki takes more of the spotlight. I don't feel personally that he is a background character, but I feel like as the series goes on, there's panels that we get of his back where he's walking with his aides, and there is just strength radiating from this young man. Like, you can just see in the way he carries himself. I mean, in his words, yes, but I feel like when he talks, he's pretty much the same Prince Zen when it comes to that. But I feel like just in the art and how he is drawn, that you see the gradual strength and confidence that this young man is having and going on in his life. I loved it. I loved it. Like, I'm seeing that one panel of him, it's just his back walking with his aides, but they don't know what the future holds. And in that moment, there are so many changes that are happening with his aides, with Shirayuki, and even his brother. They don't know what's going to happen. But here is Zen just being utmost confidence that everything, maybe not everything's going to be okay, but he's just walking forward with that. And I could not get enough of that moment. I feel like from who he is in the beginning, not that he was unconfident, but I definitely feel like I don't know, I just felt like he wasn't the Prince Zen that's at the end. I'm not sure how to put that into words, but I feel like he changes. It's more subtle, and maybe he doesn't take the same giant leaps that Shirayuki does, because I definitely feel like she does when she decides, like when she talks to Obi, there's a conversation she has with him where she's like, you are here with me, you showed up, and I know the direction that I need to do. She has those moments where she's like, I know, this is exactly what I need to do. But I feel with Prince Zen, it's smaller and it's more subtle. And so I feel like when we get those moments in the manga, it's very good and eye-opening to who his character is. And I really just love how he gets trolled more often than not, even by his aides, his friends. He is very, very sweet to Shirayuki and so supportive. I mean, you definitely see he wants her by his side. And I know I've already said that before, but there is something powerful when you see a love interest in real life or in fiction where they're like, I love to hear how my significant other, the person I love, is working on them, how they want to be better and improve themselves. And Zen's 100% here for it, even though he knows that's going to lead to Shirayuki and him not being able to be together the same way that they have been early on in the series. I just will never get over that. I love how at times Prince Zen has a healthy jealousy of other people when Shirayuki is around certain guys, and he's like, who's that? You know, like, I feel like it's not bad because you're seeing the love and affection that he has, and maybe that sounds really weird, but I just felt like it's not a toxic jealousy is what I'm trying to say. And so I appreciate that if he's going to be jealous and we're going to see it as a reader, I'm glad that it's not toxic and that it never leads to something bad. Whenever they have their reunions, it's so very good. I definitely agree with Obi that I wish Prince Zen would say some of the things on his mind, like he would say Shirayuki is beautiful more often, because Zen is definitely feeling that and thinking that, and we see his aides that, but Shirayuki, he doesn't always say these things, and I feel like he just becomes a precious little being who becomes very awkward, though as the series goes on. Both him and Shirayuki definitely are less awkward, and I love when they have their kissable ship moments. It's very cute and very beautiful, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I really love when the creator feeds us these moments, since we don't get them as often, since, you know, they're not together. But Prince Zen is a wonderful character. I never felt he was a background character, and these last few volumes, I've really loved his character development. Again, it's hard for me to put in words of how he has grown, but you can just see it. And I love how I can see it and what is happening, because he's going to be such a strong, very strong prince. And I'm so here for it. And I guess we could talking about Prince Zen. Let's talk about Prince Izana, because as I mentioned before, he was one of the reasons I sort of did not, I know he's coming up, continue this series, and that, well, at least I said that I was going to take a break, because I hated Prince Izana in the beginning. Oh my goodness, when I was even rereading it, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't stand his character. I don't know where the turning point was, but there was a turning point, and I love when Prince Izana is teasing Zed. It is so gold. It's so hilarious to see Zed get upset, because Izana knows what he's doing. He has really rubbed off on me in this series series. I've really enjoyed the times that we see him because he is a very interesting character, and I appreciate that we're seeing more of his humorous side, and you can definitely see that him and Zen are brothers, because in the beginning, I felt like Izana was very hard to read. He still is, but I just did not feel he was a good big brother at all. I was thankful for those moments. I don't remember when all of them happened, but when you see him and Zen together when Zen was younger, and how Izana definitely has cared for Zen, because I didn't always get that vibe, to be honest. So I have enjoyed seeing that. He just knows how to press Zen's buttons. Like, I'm here for it. I am 100% here for it. So I never expected he would be a part of the story, a character in the story that I would actually be genuinely interested in, and finding out what is happening to him as the story goes on. It was very good. I feel like that conveys some strong storytelling, because I don't know many who like Izana in the very beginning, but I really feel like he rubs off on you as the story goes on. And I appreciate, like, later on in one of the later volumes, we actually get a backstory of him, and I was like, man, he's got a caring side to him. And I love how Shirayuki is doing all she can to earn Izana's trust, and how Izana is viewing Shirayuki differently. Like, yes, I hope that they have such a good relationship. Hopefully, I guess, brother-in-law. Really hope that it will be a good one in the foreseeable future, because I want them to be on good terms. And I love how Shirayuki has always respected Izana from the beginning. Izana, we can't say the same about him. We can't say the same about him, but he has been so much better. And again, I just never imagined that I would actually like him. And some of my favorite parts in the series is when Izana and Zen are together, and Zen is mad, and Izana's like, oh, what's wrong, little brother? I don't know what's going on. And Zen's like, you know why I'm mad right now. And then it totally ignores whatever Zen just said to talk about something else. I really love those moments. They are little treasures that are just found throughout the series. I feel like we haven't gotten any of those, like, in the later volumes. They're not quite as common, but you get them woven throughout the series, and I'm 100% here for it. Since I've talked so much about him, let's talk about Obi. I really liked Obi the first time I read Snow with Red Hair, like the first 4 volumes, and then I felt like there was going to be a love triangle, and I just was like, I don't want to hate Obi and don't want to switch sides. So I want to be on Prince, cheering for Prince Zen, but I felt very conflicted. And I remember very vividly not like feeling that way, of feeling so conflicted. There we go. I could speak. I didn't like that. So that was part of why I also put it down. But again, I didn't drop it. I mean, obviously I kept pre-ordering each time there was a new volume. Oh my goodness. The character growth in Obi has been amazing. He has become this dashing knight. Like, there was a panel in, I think it was volume 24, where I'm just like, this would be a moment for, if there were any potential love interests or suitors that were here, I'm like, they'd be fanning their face right now, because he just looks so prestigious, so nice, and I'm like, I'm 100% here for it. Trying to think of what I could say about Obi, because there is just so many wonderful parts about him, and I deeply love him and Shirayuki's friendship. It is so beautiful, and I love how they're sort of like their own dynamic duo. They have just such this great friendship, and I even love when our trio is together, like Shirayuki, Zen, and Obi. That was part of why volume 20 was one of my ultimate favorite volumes in this series, because Obi can just press Zen's buttons as well, but it's more in a teasing way that's different than Izana. Obi has a lot of self-confidence, and so when he says things about his looks or his skills, I do think it's very funny, and that never goes away, which I'm really thankful. Even when Obi sort of calms down, I guess, a little bit when it comes to some of his crazy shenanigans, I mean, he's still him, and he is only growing in his skills as, I was supposed to say, a martial artist, but I mean, I don't know if he refers to himself as one in the beginning, but he's a very good hand-to-hand combat fighter. There we go. Pretty sure that's what he says. He's very good at that, but he always keeps growing his skill. The way that he is an aide, and just an aide to Prince Zen, and I feel like a knight to Shirayuki, even though he's a knight under Prince Zen, but I feel like he is Shirayuki's knight in shining armor. He wears that title so well. Obi must always stay. Like, he is part of this gang of wonderful, amazing characters. I really just love seeing him thrive. I love seeing him be able to call a place home, to be able to call people his home and his friends, and not wanting to leave them, and seeing that he has value as a person. that he doesn't need to be apathetic about, well, it doesn't matter if I'll come back or not. Like, no, he has his lady and his master who are waiting for him and want him to come home, and friends as well, like not just them. He is a wonderful person in this group that I can definitely see why is, I think, a fan favorite, including for me too. Like, once I got over everything that was happening and I was like, you know what, I was like, I'm just gonna trust Obi because Obi's very, very respectful. Really love this conversation that he has with Zen about his feelings. Like, yes, it was so good. And I love how Obi's not afraid to put Zen on the spot because he definitely does in that conversation. It is so great. I can't imagine Shirayuki without Obi and Obi without Shirayuki. Like, they are just two peas in a pod. And I love how Shirayuki does tell Obi, she's like, I'm glad you're here because I can always be myself around you. And I'm like, Obi, yes. Like, yes. Like, I'm glad that he's gotten to that point, that he stayed, that he never left, because he definitely was always on his feet, going different places. Definitely still has his mischievousness. Like so I'm glad that never left because that's such a fun part of his character. His presence, I feel like, encourages many people around him, like not just Shirayuki. Like, especially when they go to, is it Lilius? I think it's how you say that city's name, the city of academics. Like, I feel like even though he's like, I'm not a scholar, there's a lot of books, I really feel like he fits in right at home with these characters and how all of them have just embraced him. Really good. Obi is another wonderful and special character. I mean, all of these characters really are, though. I was telling a friend the other day that Shirayuki is my favorite character, but I feel bad saying that because all of these characters really become special to you, and I don't feel like I could just choose one. I mean, Shirayuki I feel like would be the ultimate favorite, but I mean, like, if I could only hang out with one person, like, I want the whole gang to be able to hang out with. And talking about the gang, let's talk about the aides. Oh my goodness, I love both of them. Mitsuhide and Kiki, I hope I said his name right because, man, it takes a minute for me to think about it when I'm reading or like going to talk about them, but I love both of them. I'm just going to say real quick, when it comes to a romance involving Kiki, I shipped it right from the start. That might not be the most popular opinion, but I loved it in the manga and I need to see more of it because it was just really good. But I'm not going to say more thing about that because that would definitely be spoilers. But Kiki, I did feature recently this week in Girl Bosses, and she holds her ground. I've really, really enjoyed her story as a character because she's definitely a knight. She's definitely an aide to Prince Zen. But seeing how things have shifted, even though I totally agree with our male aide here, that it is so joyful to see the changes that are happening in these characters' lives, but it's also a lot of melancholy. I felt those words resonate with them on a deep level because I feel like there's consistent changes after volume 10. Like, these characters are consistently undergoing changes in their life, either due to the situation that they're in, having to move, or they've just got personal things happening. It's at times I feel like a lot to take in because they are consistently and thankfully reuniting often as a gang. But there was one point, I think it was before volume 20. I just had to put it down. I read the part and then they left and I was just like, I don't know if my heart can face, or maybe they were reuniting because I was like, I don't know if my heart can face them separating. That must have been what it was, is they came back together and then I was like, they're leaving again to go back to wherever they need to go. And I'm like, I am not ready. But all of these characters take it in stride. And so I felt Mitsuhide when he says, I feel so happy for the changes that are happening, but also like a little bit sad because there's changes happening at the same time. But Kiki takes it in stride. I loved her backstory. I love how she has just stood her ground. She is an amazing, strong female character and I'm just like, wow. And I love when she's on page because she isn't like sharp tongue, but she definitely has some really good comebacks, and she's also very straight faced, and I always appreciate those characters who say things very straight faced, but it's very humorous because they say that, and then the other person's not quite sure what to think or what to say because they responded in that kind of way. There's plenty of moments with Kiki having that kind of thing happen to her. And of course, Mitsuhide, he is one that is usually the one on the other side getting told things by Kiki. They have such a wonderful friendship and I love the respect that he has for Kiki. They have just such this beautiful and very moving bond, and I love how Mitsuhide, like when you first meet him, I feel like he's sort of the comedy relief a little bit, but he grows over the series, sort of like Shirayuki, because Shirayuki doesn't get mad often, but when she does, it makes you, step back a little bit like, this is on a good thing, and Mitsuhide is the same way. Like, he is on a different cover by himself. He looks amazing, even though he's got a little bit of blood on him, but knowing what happens in that moment, like that whole arc that was going on was very emotionally moving and very frustrating with what's going on, not because of him, but because of how it's affecting him. Like, the anger was real in that arc of the series. But he grows so much, and you see some of the struggles he has, and you see the respect and the love that he has for Kiki and Zen, and the dedication he has as an aide is so incredible. I know a lot of people were not happy what happens involving him and Kiki at a certain moment, but my respect levels for him went up 1,000. I mean, I've always really enjoyed his character. He has been one of my favorite side characters because of everything I've mentioned. But when that moment comes, I just could not help but love and respect his character even more. You just get more layers to who he is, and that he's not just a comedy relief. And again, seeing how much he cares for those around him and how he can just encourage people too. Like, he really encourages Shirayuki, and I love how when he speaks to her about something about standing by Zen's side, that she applies those words he spoke way early in the series at the end. And I feel like not just for Shirayuki, but I feel like other characters that feel the same way. Like, he is such a strong and reliable character who's just very steady throughout this series. As I say, you know that he'll never change, but he does have some changes, but for the better. Even though when he changes or is going through those changes, it was very, very hard. So I enjoyed seeing the moments he was angry, and I love his friendship with a certain vice captain. It was so funny. I was like, I apparently appreciate those moments where you have the like antagonist-like character who brings out things in just certain characters. I was going to compare him to Izana and Zen's friendship relationship, but I was like, well, Izana's not really an antagonist, but early on in the series, I definitely felt that he was. These two grow so much. I mean, it may feel like they're just side characters in the beginning. Granted, very engaging and awesome side characters, but definitely as the series goes on, they grow so much as individuals, hoping that they stay together and stay strong, because like as aides and as knights, because I have just loved seeing them on page, and when they have their fierce moments coming up, kicking butt, like, yes, I'm here to see it. It's always really, really good. There is another character I want to talk about that I was going to talk about before this one, but I want to talk about him first, and that is little Ryu. Oh my goodness. He has stolen my heart. I loved him from the time we saw him throughout this series. It has been so rewarding, so satisfying as a reader to see his character grow. Actually, he may have some of the best character growth in this series. I love little Ryu. I love him. I really appreciate, like, with this arc and being in Lilius and the decisions that he makes. So that last 2 volumes, oh my gosh, if anything would have happened to him, I would have rioted. That was some of the most heartbreaking chapters, because like little Ryu should never ever have to endure any dangerous situations, but here he was, and it was very alarming, very upsetting, but the ending, whew. Thank you, mangaka, because I would have been a very hot mess, very upset, but I have loved seeing him just come into being a young man. He is an amazing young character. I love him, his relationship with Shirayuki. I love how they trust each other. I love how they're colleagues. I have just thrived as a reader seeing them work side by side. I feel like part of why them being in Lilius together was very rewarding and just very wonderful is because of the friendship, the relationship they have. Granted, it may have not been the same if Sir Obi had not been there, so I'm glad he was there too. I actually liked the trio dynamics between Ryu, Shirayuki, and Obi. They have a very special friendship, and there were just so many beautiful parts that happened later on. And just throughout this series, I know a lot of people said that they found like the glowing stones and the flower very boring, but I found it a really engaging, interesting part of the story. It was very glued to the pages. I didn't feel bored at all. I think it was in those parts that, yes, I sort of missed Zen. Not gonna say I did it, and I definitely missed our gang being together, but Ryu, he just brings his own interesting self to the page, and I love him in this series. I never expected he would also become one of my favorite characters, because he is just amazing, and he's just wonderful. I love how he slowly makes friends, and how Shirayuki Shirayuki influences him, and even Obi, how they grow as herbalists while they're here, how they research together, and how Ryu can just look at Shirayuki at times and know that something's up and knows exactly how to encourage her. Shirayuki can do the same with Ryu. It's much more subtle, like it could be just refilling an ink bottle so that he has a fresh thing of ink to write. They really care deeply for each other, and so I'm so glad that throughout this series, with all the changes that are happening, that they want to work side by side. Like, they don't want to leave each other's side as colleagues and as friends. So here for that. I hope that it continues, because if little Ryu ever leaves Shirayuki and Obi's side to go work at the palace and she's not there, I'm going to be very heartbroken. I'm going to be very crestfallen, because I feel like he just sort of like slowly captures your heart, or just captures your heart all at once with his sleeping under the table, because he just does, and him being in his own little world. But I feel like how we view him too through Shirayuki's eyes, you quickly come to love his character, because she's like, nobody needs to disrespect him just because he's a kid. Like, no, he is a person, not just a kid, and he's very knowledgeable and he helps people and deserves respect. And that is another reason why Shirayuki slays. And talking about slaying, so I'm not going to say much about him, but when I was talking about the prince from earlier, I don't know how you say his name. It's R-A-J. I always call him Prince Ra, but I don't think that's how you actually technically say his name. I love his character. If anybody had told me you're going to like him by the end of his sort of main time on page, I'd be like, no. No, I'm not. But I did. I did. His friendship with Shirayuki is amazing. It is so good. It was a beautiful, wonderful part of in these first 10 volumes, because he doesn't have a very large part later on. I mean, we still definitely see him, and I'm glad that we do, because I love him. And his aide, oh my gosh, I love his aide. His aide is hilarious. He's another character, very straight-faced, but says things that are really funny in light of what's happening. But I would say stay tuned. I think that if you don't like the prince in the beginning, I do think that you're going to come to like him, because he shows so much character development. He's so sincere, very emotional young man, and I really, really love those scenes, especially when they involve Shirayuki. And like, I don't want him to go anywhere, because one thing I've really appreciated about this series is that the creator always brings back older characters, and we see them, because I have really gotten attached to all of these characters, whether at the palace, or whether in Lilius, or whether we're in a different part of the kingdom. I have really come to love all of them, and I am thankful that this series is very chill, very low-key, but there are some really intense moments. When the twins are on page, it is heartbreaking to see that situation, and there's a lot of tension and anticipation and a little bit of internal turmoil for some of the characters that was really hard to read, like not in a bad way. I just need a breather, because I feel like overall the series is so chill, but when those twins are there and just a few other parts, there's lots of fighting that's going on, nothing graphic or gory, but it's always sort of weird, I feel like, when there's a lot of blood on page, or feels like a lot of blood, because there's never any blood on page. Yeah, and the way that Zen responds to the twins, I did a quote by him, or wrote one of his lines that he says on my Goodreads review. I'm not gonna say what it is, because any of that would be like massive spoilers, because that happens way later in the series, but he just seemed so wise in those moments and knew what to say to encourage these young men. And him and Shirayuki, hopefully whenever they get married and she is a princess, they are going to make an awesome and epic, powerful couple, because they really, I'm hesitant to say that they give the benefit of the doubt, but they just sense things in people, and they slowly start to, I don't know if trust them, but help that person, I feel like, even more so, especially in the last arc where Shirayuki, it like puts up her hand and is like, you know, if you need help, pass on your burden, what you're struggling with, onto me, just touch my hand. I feel like Zen has that same thing. He doesn't do it the same way, obviously, because he's a prince, but with those twins, there's a lot of turmoil and things going on, and nobody trusts them, but Zen's like, I've got you, and I've got your back, and I want to see you thrive in the light. And Shirayuki and him really share that together, and I love seeing them together when they're like that and when they're separated. I had planned to go more in depth about things I loved about this series, but I just gush straight about the characters, but the characters truly make this story. You're coming for friendship. Yes, I feel like you're coming for romance too, and I love the romance parts, like when there was a certain reunion between Zen and Shirayuki. The tear works, man. The tear works. fireworks. That was a very emotional moment. I definitely cried. There's some beautiful conversations that happened that I also cried at. I feel like, again, that you're coming for that friendship, seeing these characters grow together, but especially individually. The romance is just everything. It is everything. I love it so much. It is very beautiful, and I am looking forward to the day where I hope that all these characters, not just our original gang, I hope that all of them can just be together throughout this entire series, and other characters that we meet. I hope that we see friends from the City of Academics that come back and we're able to interact with them, and even the twins that they come, and just other friends and characters that they've met along the way, like the Prince of Tanaburn. All of them, they really become something special. They became like best fictional friends for me. I read volume 20 and I didn't want to let go of how beautiful this series is and how much I love them. I've been really struggling not to buy a bunch of pins that I see of them, because I feel like they became sort of like how the Haikyuu characters, they've just sort of become ingrained in my heart and very special to me. So I'm gonna stop there because I can feel myself getting emotional, but I love this series. I highly recommend it. It is beautiful and wonderful. If you enjoy more sort of like slice of life, it's not a slice of life series, but more everyday things that are happening in these characters' lives, with the fantasy being on the lighter side and the romance a little bit heavy at times, but in a good way, this would be a series I would definitely check out. The characters, then I could just gush about them all day, every day. I definitely look forward to rereading this. I look forward to more volumes coming out. I appreciate everybody who voted for this series and has encouraged me to read it. It has been such a beautiful ride, and I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend now that I have no more volumes to catch up on, but do stay tuned. Next week I will be reviewing My Happy Marriage, which was #1 of the most that got the most votes throughout the rounds, but especially this last one. Let me know, friends, have you read Starry with the Red Hair? What are some fantasy romance stories that you enjoy? Who is your favorite character in this series? I would love to know, and if you can choose, because it's a hard one. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!